Anyway, Emily, what are you taking a look at?
Well, just yesterday, there was a flurry of headlines about Republican efforts to, quote, ban books. New York Magazine rolled out a new cover story on the topic with an unintentionally hilarious image showing the words, quote, "I will not say gay," written over and over and over again on a chalkboard. This is a great place to start. Notice the wording from the magazine in this tweet about the story. Quote, "Convinced schools are brainwashing kids to be left-wingers. Conservatives are seizing control of the American classroom." This is somewhat amusing because the story's author, Jonathan Chait, is forced to concede some 3/4 of the way through his piece that, yes, schools now instruct students to abide by the values of political liberalism on a wide scale. So wide as is the scale, as Chait himself mentions, the country's largest teachers union is explicitly working to include critical race theory, for instance, in curricula from pre-K through 12th grade, pre-K. That's literally in his article. So right there, he's dispelled the myth of his own premise that Republicans are fantasizing about some left-wing takeover of education. It's not a fantasy. They are correct that it's happening. But whether it's good or bad is actually the question. This is the case with the corporate media narrative on this topic time and time again. Hilariously, the New York Times reported last month that a billionaire DeSantis donor was cooling on the governor in part because of these alleged book bans in Florida. The media's spin is straight from the Democratic Party talking points, and it's both incredibly stupid and incredibly powerful. It is, of course, literally true that Republicans want to ban some books from school libraries. It is true that some legislative proposals would target books that are probably fine for those libraries. What's missing is the context about, one, what's in the targeted books, and two, that random legislators introduce imperfect and crazy bills that go absolutely nowhere every single day, and the media doesn't act like they represent a real threat unless it's convenient for the left. Indiana Republican Governor Eric Holcomb signed one of these book banning bills just yesterday. Here's how Gannett's Indy Star reported on that. Quote, "The new law requires schools to publish their library catalogs online, create a process in which community members can request certain books be banned, and removes the legal defense librarians currently have to claim a book was available for, quote, educational purposes if felony charges arose against them for making available books that are harmful to minors." The first part of that, by the way, is democratizing school libraries, small d. But the, quote, harmful to minors standard is thankfully a very high bar for litigation, according to Indiana's code. The book would need to contain, quote, nudity, sexual content, or sadomasochistic abuse, a persuasiveness for minors to engage in sexual activities, offensive content to community standards for adults, considering what's suitable to minors to see, content void of, quote, serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value for kids. Now, those things are all broad enough that they're open for interpretation, but they're not crazy guidelines as a starting point. So what prompted all of this? Well, as in many states around the country, the book Genderqueer freaked parents out. Why? The book is full of nude cartoon teenagers having intercourse, giving each other oral sex, and more. Really, it is. Indiana's ACLU trumpeted Genderqueer as the state's most challenged book of 2022 in a Sunday tweet. They're not making the argument that they think they are. In fact, PEN America's data shows, quote, Genderqueer is the most challenged book nationwide last fall, was the most challenged book, followed by a book called Flamer. In other words, the so-called bans are targeting legitimately inappropriate material. You can see it on the screen. If you're not watching and you're listening, essentially it's what I described earlier, cartoon teenagers, nude, having sex with each other, talking about extremely sexually explicit things. According to Axios, now, Biden's campaign has evidence that pinning book bans on the GOP is polling really well for Democrats. So expect to hear way more about these book bans in the next year and a half, and here's where it's important to just cut out the nonsense. The media will blame Republicans for stoking this culture war battle while ignoring, for instance, Muslim parents in Dearborn fighting against Genderqueer, and then the teachers' unions fighting against those parents to implement debunked history or Genderqueer or bring the 1619 Project to their community and put it in their public schools. But the left stokes this cultural war by putting porn in middle school and high school libraries or critical race theory for 5-year-olds, then defending it with the ACLU and with unions. The right's pushback is nowhere near perfect, but if we're going to wrap it into this, quote, book ban narrative and make it sound like this is all just about censoring Toni Morrison, we're making everything so much worse. As Sagar pointed out last week, history scores are plummeting among American students. It'd be really easy for the unions and special interest groups to just cede the point on these glaringly inappropriate books and move on. That's so easy to do. They put those books there, they can get them out. But because these institutions are captured by mediocre ideologues, they'll cling to the porn, rile up parents with good and bad consequences, and do a really, really bad job actually teaching students.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Sagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.